Welcome back, guys. ISO here. I have a good video for you today. The answers to John Mulaney's Champion Challenge. I did a lot of research and broke down every single fight, how to easily beat those champions, and the MVPs, best counters, and decent counters. So those are the tiers I'm going to be using for every single fight. So you don't want to miss out till the end. And before we begin, I have some general guidelines and disclaimers. First of all, there is no one champion fits all. You cannot bring one or two champions and expect to take down the entire challenge. It is very complicated and there's a lot of nodes, a lot of interactions. But stay with me, I will give you the answers to every single fight. Secondly, I want to just put out there the MVPs and I will talk more about them. But I think all of these champions are definitely the MVPs for this challenge. The global nodes, good defense, and equally balanced. So you can use this to your advantage. And good defense, what it is, basically when you put a parry, when you do parry, you place a debuff on your opponent. And it can be any of 3 random debuffs: armor break, suppression, and disorient. Disorient lowers ability accuracy. Suppression lowers power. And you can use these to your advantage. But be careful, guys, because when the opponent throws their special, they're going to convert these debuffs into a buff. If they have one debuff, and it can be any debuff, guys, it can be a bleed from Nick Fury, they'll convert it into a Fury. If they have 3 debuffs, they'll convert it into an unblockable special. If they have 5 debuffs, they become unstoppable. And for you, if you convert your buffs, you actually get, a Fury for converting one, and the same thing, you become unblockable and unstoppable. So it works both ways, right? Hence the term equally balanced, if you will. Number 4, do not use Magneto as your main clearer. I'm not going to say that you shouldn't use Magneto. I think Magneto is a great champion for this, but I will elaborate on this. And the reason, just to get it out there, guys, Magneto won't work in terms of damage because of the global node. When you have the prowess charges, you throw your special, guess what? All of your buffs go away. Like it says right there, you convert all buffs as soon as you throw your special attack. So his damage won't be there, but his utility will. And I'm going to tell you where you can use Magneto. Number 5, be patient. Don't just be throwing a lot of debuffs out there, because they will become unblockable and unstoppable and you will lose. 6, basically reiterating what number 1, the point for number 1. And 7, you want to consider boosting. If you use a class-based boost, you can elevate the tiers of some of these champions. And right off the bat, Corvus is one that comes to mind. I don't think he's the best for this challenge, but if you have a cosmic boost, you can just cycle through those SP2s and win the game. So let's start with Howard the Duck here. So Howard the Duck has these nodes. He has Rage, Matador, and Explosive Personality. If you're reading this, you're probably uncollected at least, so you probably know all of these nodes. And Rage, basically when you cap out, I believe it's a 5%, they get a Fury. If they get 5 Furies, they become unblockable for the rest of the fight. Matador, you can't gain a bar of power unless they throw a special attack. Explosive Personality, you hit into the block 5 times and you take a massive amount of damage. So guys, who is the best counter here? Any Mystic champion that can nullify pretty much. But the MVPs are Morningstar, Black Widow, Clairvoyant, Dr. Voodoo, Longshot, and Archangel. And guys, overall, keep in mind, you want to build a team of 5. There are 5 bosses here, not including the final boss. And you want to build your team of 5 to counter at least one of these champions. So for Howard the Duck, I personally use Morningstar. She is such a beast. She destroys Howard the Duck with an SP2. Gains some regen as well if he procs his regen, and she is just amazing. And other best counters as well: Doom, Symbiote Supreme, and Magic. The reason why I don't think Doom is an MVP is because you can't cycle through Doom's rotation because of the Matador node. If I had to choose three characters I can choose for this fight that I can bring to the rest of the path, it would be Morningstar, Clairvoyant, or Longshot. But let's say you don't have any mystic people. You can get through this fight. You can use Gilly 2099. Guardian works as well. Let's see, CGR also does very well. And Magneto, the main goal here is to just turn off abilities, which Magneto does. So he makes these fights pretty easy since he magnetizes these opponents. So you can use Magneto, but I don't think he is worth bringing on the team. I would make an argument if you had a rank 3, perhaps it is to your best interest to bring Magneto. But Captain Marvel movie does so well here as well. And when he hits the Thunderquack, make sure you parry him. He hits it at 25% and 50%. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, he will get wrecked. So fight number 1. Fight number 2, Gwenpool. She has that awesome combination of Power Shield and Polka Dot Power and Combo Up. So Combo Up, basically, she lowers your defensive ability accuracy. So you want to bring somebody who can counter that. Additionally, she has Bane, so that's really annoying. You will lose a lot of health, especially with the combination of Power Shield, where she doesn't get, her health doesn't drop down normally. You have to throw special attacks. And what's interestingly enough, guys, that the Bane will actually give you power because of the Polka Dot Power, which is when the opponent is suffering from debuffs, you gain power, and Bane is a debuff. So general tip here, guys, you can use Aegon in this matchup to build him up, and you don't necessarily have to quit out with an SP2 bleed to knock her out. But if you're in a situation where you're going to be knocked out, you want to just back out and keep your combo. So the MVPs for this, guys, Morningstar works really well with that SP1 to knock her at the end, and you can just build her up. Nick Fury is so good for this fight. Archangel as well, you parry heavy, win the game. Doom, Black Widow, Clairvoyant is also really good. And an unlikely counter here, guys, is Old Man Logan. His ability accuracy cannot be changed, which means you can still parry. So Gwenpool, remember, guys, she turns off defensive abilities, which is like stuns, like parries. But things like bleeds, you'll still be able to do. Mysterio as well, for the same reason. And Mysterio is actually a decent person in your team, and I'm going to show you why. Those are the MVPs, guys. I would say from here, Nick Fury and Archangel are your best bet. But if you don't have them, Hyperion works really well. Venom the Duck, he also does a lot of work, especially against Howard the Duck as well. So if you're using Venom the Duck to clear Howard the Duck, you can also use him for Gwenpool. And Venom's really good to have in your team against Gwenpool and other matchups, which we will talk about. But other decent counters, Guardian, Domino, pretty much anybody that does damage over time. Namor, Namor's actually a pretty decent counter for Howard the Duck because you just hit into the block and you basically reverse all of the explosive personality damage. So if that's your strategy into going to facing Howard, you can use Namor for Gwenpool. So let's keep it going here, man. You pretty much reached the half of the path with Warlock. And Warlock, in my opinion, is one of the harder champions to beat if you don't know what you're doing. So guys, before we even go into this fight, make sure you have your willpower turned off and your salve turned off, because if you have an infection on you, he will degen you and you will die. That degen is strong. You can just bring in a robot. A robot does not have willpower and salve, right? So the best robot here will be 2099. But before we even get into that, he has Oscillate, Turtling, Hit Me I Dare You, and Crumbling Armor. So you know Oscillate already. Every 15 seconds he switches between a Fury passive and an Armor passive, and it's pretty annoying to deal with. Turtling, you know, he just gains an armor up buff. every 6 seconds if you don't land a hit. Hit me or dare you. Basically at 10 charges he gains an armor buff. So he's just a tanky guy. So you, like I said, you want to bring a robot champion. Gilly 2099, Sentinel, and Warlock work so good. And Quake here as well, guys. Aegon as well. If you haven't ramped up above 100, he can shrug off debuffs and his Furies if you can get it at that level. I believe it's 150. But if you have the Furies, the infection won't last as long. So he is also an option. And if you shrug off the debuffs, the armor breaks, all that stuff, then you won't degen because your willpower won't be active. But other best counters here, guys: Venom, Doom, Guardian works pretty good here. I use mine. Corvus, especially with the boost. Captain Marvel movie puts in so much work. Stark Enhanced. So Medusa and Vision Arcus could work here as well. I don't have any of them ranked up, so I can't test them. I was seeing that some people were having troubles with the shrug off. So just make sure you test these champions against Warlock before you continue on the path. And if they work really well, you can just go ahead and beat Warlock with Medusa or Vision Arcus. Other decent counters: Magneto, he turns off his abilities so you can parry. Venom, Aegon, Cap Infinity War. Guardian, like I said, Silver Surfer, he's immune to that shock. Alright guys, Deadpool, you're almost done with the path. But he has some pretty annoying nodes. Aspect of Genesis will be one of them. When you reach 15% for the opponent, he will degen you and he will regenerate if you're near him. Vigor gets a bunch of health every 15 seconds, backup recovery, burst of attack at 50% health, hurt locker, you can't repeat your same special attack, and strike back. Never forget about strike back. This being said, I use Morningstar. I took him to an SP3 by accident. He brought me down to like 15%, but I finished at 100% because she copied all of that regen. She can nullify everything with her SP2, hits like a truck, and you can keep building her up. But if you don't have a Morningstar, you can use Archangel, especially if you're using him for Gwenpool and for Howard. Doom works super good, man. Aegon as well, and Warlock to stop the regen and his abilities. So the best counters, if you don't have any of those MVPs, would be Symbiote and Sorcerer Supreme. Human Torch with Noble Flames turns off the regen. Void as well. Gilly 2099. And I do want to say a note about Red Guardian. He stops unstoppable with his SB1 and refreshes his slow with a heavy, but he also blocks unblockable. But the thing is, guys, you have to have him at SIG 200 to avoid your charges being dropped. And otherwise his shield will have to regenerate and pretty much it's game over, especially for long fights. And he has perfect block. So if you have a Red Guardian maxed out SIG 200, it might be worth bringing him along because you don't have to worry about the debuffs. You don't have to worry about the opponent becoming unblockable and unstoppable. So yeah, guys, Red Guardian can be very, very good maxed out. But other decent counters, like I said, Void, I was debating whether he would be a really great counter or not, just because I don't see him being used in other fights. But Captain America Infinity War as well would be a great decent counter, especially if you're using him in other fights. So let's keep on going, man. The last person for this path, you can taste the finish line here. Well, not really, but Mysterio. Mysterio is really annoying. He has masochism, toxic behavior, and enhanced visibility. I'm sure you guys know what masochism is. It's really annoying. But the toxic behavior, basically he gets 3 chemical gas and they become converted into a poison debuff after 8 seconds, and you get around this by having Mysterio throw his special attack. But when he becomes stingy and doesn't want to throw his special attack, you gain a poison. So what do you want to do? you definitely want to bring a poison immune character, an armor break character. But he also has enhanced visibility, which basically he gets more power from receiving and landing attacks if his helmet is active. So you definitely want to bring an armor break character and poison immune. Who's the best for that? Captain Marvel movie puts in a lot of work here, guys. But if you don't have her, like me, Gilly 2099, since she is poison immune, she puts so much work in this fight. Aegon, just shrug it off. Ghost as well, man. Ghost, don't forget about Ghost. She can just convert that poison into a massive fury, and you don't have to worry about stunning the opponent. But Mysterio also works really well because of the heal block on his light. And that masochism, guys, is really potent. He will gain a lot of health from that masochism. So consider bringing Warlock or Ghost. You don't have to parry or just out damaging Mysterio's health like with Gilly 2099. But Hyperion also works really well. You can use that SP2 to armor break. Just make sure you parry before to get rid of the masochism before you armor break. But if you don't have these guys, best counters, Human Torch works pretty good if you can save the Noble Flames or reactivate them by giving him a lot of revives. Not the best counter. Corvus, Captain America Infinity War, you'll have to bring in the armor break synergy. But Venom, super good, man. Armor break with his heavy. And Apocalypse actually turns off masochism. I don't think he's the best counter in my opinion, especially if you're just using him for Mysterio. But if you don't have anybody else and you can't out damage the masochism, he's pretty good for that. But other decent counters, guys, Nick Fury, Silver Surfer with the armor break, Coal Obsidian with the armor break, Magneto because Mysterio is metal, and King Groot since you won't get poisoned. But yeah, hopefully you have some of the MVPs. These guys will definitely help you get through this Mysterio fight. The last fight of this challenge, Spider-Ham. So here you have to watch out for Prey on the Weak and Langur. So Prey on the Weak is basically he gains a bunch of power, 3% when per expiring buff. Doesn't sound like much, but when you're mixing in Dex with like expiring buff saved from Aegon's Fury, Spider-Ham will be at an SP2 before you know it, and I feel like his AI is a lot like Captain Marvel movies. He doesn't want to throw that SP1, man. He just wants to get to that SP2, and it's really annoying. But Langur as well, guys. If you reach 0 power, you will die pretty much because you take a bunch of damage. Okay, so what you can do is just parry in the beginning and just hit him with a 5-hit combo and just keep that up. You can parry heavy as well. That works really well. And just keep in mind of your power. And you want to power control Spider-Ham if you can by limiting the buffs that are expired on you because you want to bait out that SP1. A great counter is Venom. I personally use my Venom against Spider-Ham. He was so good, man. He stops his evade because of his symbiote utility. And you basically just win the game. You know, just make sure you don't throw an SP2, otherwise all those buffs will be converted into Furies and Spider-Ham will gain a bunch of power. It's a pretty easy fight overall, and if you don't have Venom, you can use Gilly, especially if you've been using her throughout the path, Ghost, and Red Guardian to apply the slow. But whatever you do, man, don't use your Aegon, because those Furies will give Spider-Ham a bunch of power. You could also use Quake, but you know, Spider-Ham is pretty easy fight compared to the rest. But if you want more details how to defeat Spider-Ham, I made a video. You can go ahead and check that out on how to defeat Spider-Ham. So let me know, guys, down below if you have any additional counters or if you want to add anything to this list or change anything about it. I will interact with you in the comment section below. Otherwise, have a great day and stay safe out there. Peace.